So I am just on the BJJ Fanatics website, and what's amazing is now we've already talked about Gravity is Your Friend, but there are 2 other instructionals that you might want to talk about.
Recently, I had the opportunity to work with BJJ Fanatics guy, and now we have 3 instructionals out there. We have Escapes Engineered for guys over 40. If you're 40 or more, hey, dig into it. Gravity's Your Friend, sit-up sweeps. Been there for some time and is really, really getting a lot of attention. And then we have the Smash the Knee Folding Pass. Now, that's one of my favorites. So if you haven't looked at them, take a look. BJJFanatics.com.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
We are live. Sometimes we get these great conversations. Everything is flowing smoothly. Sometimes they are unexpected. We didn't think it would go in the direction it was. And sometimes there have been a handful of them when we finish recording and I have a hard time wrapping my mind about around the whole conversation. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it is not the amount of information, but how deep the information goes. Yeah. And this is the case right now. Like before we start going live on this takeaway, like we've mentioned a couple things here that this is, this was the most, and I feel like it is so much or so deep that it goes about education that I have a hard time putting my thoughts together now. What's your takeaway from conversation with Liam?
I think it's not about what you do, but how you do it.
Yeah.
And it's not about you. It's about your students. Mm-hmm. That carries, I think that he can probably carry those things over to every aspect of his life, whether it's jiu-jitsu related or not. A couple great stories about how he teaches. He's a math teacher, and how he teaches and how he lets his students develop on their own. He gives them a path and gives them options, and they're able to, I think, do things on their own, which then inspires them to seek out more. And I think that that's amazing because, I joked a couple times during the episode once that I wish he was my math teacher growing up, because of the way he taught. And, also that I came from,
well, tell the story about your teacher, like without names or anything.
Yeah.
Because I think it was impact. Yeah.
Yeah. Grammar school, elementary school, whatever you want to call it, 1st through 8th grade in the city of Chicago. And I loved school. I loved it. I loved going. I loved learning. I was the kid that, I loved doing my homework. I enjoyed every aspect of it. Why? Probably because I had some really great teachers. And then one year, still in elementary school, I had a not so great teacher, somebody that wrote down what we were supposed to read on one side of the board, wrote down some questions to answer, or answer these questions in your notebook on the other side of the board. And that was it. That was the extent of the day. He did a lot of feet up on his desk. There was no engagement. The class was not organized, talking, sleeping during class. Mm-hmm. Really just not I don't think what anybody would consider a good teacher. And the year after that, there were so many kids in the school that my grade got split in half.
Okay. And
half of us went back to that teacher.
Yeah.
And I was one of them. And within a week, I was not in that school anymore. I went to a different school after that because my mom had just spent a year of me talking about this. I don't know if she took any steps during that year. But I remember her saying, well, asking those questions of why don't you like it? Why aren't you doing better? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And she wasn't, back then people weren't quite as involved, I don't think. And she was always working, things like that.
You mean parents? Or?
Yeah, parents, this is what your teacher said to do it.
Yeah,
very much more regimented back then.
Yeah.
Maybe we've gone too far these days, but in the opposite direction. But anyway, she pulled me out of that school when it was obvious that they weren't listening to her concerns about me being put back in that other class that I had just been pulled out of.
Yeah.
And I think that, so what had happened up until that point, I probably had some very good instructors, teachers. And then at that point I had a bad one. And we've talked multiple times about like how the negative aspects or negative things that happen have a bigger impact than the positive ones. And I really think that year and then that experience, the first couple of weeks of the next year, probably impacted me, immensely, much more than the teachers that were good or that I thought were good before that.
Yeah.
So when I hear somebody like Liam talk about how he shows kids he gives them options. And based on where they're at, they have options to solve problems and then pick harder ones. They have options where if they shot too high, then they can go back.
Step down.
Yeah. And in both instances, I think it gives a student the opportunity to learn not only what they're being presented, but also learn about themselves and and how they learn and what their level is without being told this is your level. I think a lot of times we tell kids, we have all these standardized tests. We tell kids that, we tell a fourth grader that they're reading at a 12th grade level. And then when something becomes difficult for them, well, why? I read at a 12th grade level. We also tell another kid in that same class that, you read at a 2nd grade level, which is below where you're supposed to be. Well, am I stupid now? Is that, how do and I think we try and use these as guides, and maybe the kids should never know, but they know, they're told. And I feel that it should be less regimented and kids should be able to, seek, they need to be pushed, but they should be able to seek their level without being told specifically what their level is.
We definitely do things differently here in U.S. than is done.
Yeah. Liam's in the UK. He's in
UK. England. So we are talking about different, educational environments, different educational systems, and even culturally how education is involved. It's different too. I mean, but it is mind blowing to me the impact. And I guess I never realized this. I shouldn't say I never realized this, but I guess it got magnified today during this conversation and even listening to you two right now, how much impact we have as instructors on our students, intentionally or unintentionally. Just being in that function, how much impact we have in regards to shaping their future, regardless of their age. I mean, obviously, if we're dealing with kids, there's fundamentally, we pivoting their lives in a certain direction. We're shaping their thoughts. We are developing the way how they process information and learn and so on. But even adults, I think by teaching jiu-jitsu and being educators, and I think every instructor is an educator, to the very specific niche topic, but they are an educator. We are impacting even adults, how they think. Think about how many times we have somebody starting jiu-jitsu, like in the stories we can tell, you and I, where after 6 months or a year, they're a completely different person. They changed, the way how they think, who they are, their confidence and so on. So we have tremendous impact. And as you were telling your story about, your teacher, here's one that came in my mind. I don't remember how old I was, but I remember it was my physics teacher. So I had to be early teens. And if I remember, this is back in Poland, so the school's physics is in elementary school, goes way back early. Yeah, I know. I don't ask me why, okay, but it is. But she was, and I don't know exactly, but she had a couple PhDs and masters. She was really like educated lady, and she's teaching physics to these bunch of knuckleheads who have don't want to have anything to do with physics. Mm-hmm. And I remember before school started, before the year started, everybody is like just fearful of her. Like nobody, like she is the teacher. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to be in her class. And I remember finding out she's my teacher, and I was like, oh my God, there it goes. This is going to suck. Mm-hmm. And I remember first class, we are sitting in there, and she goes, by end of this year, I guarantee you nobody will ever cheat in my class. And everybody we're a bunch of boys, and we're like, yeah, whatever, whatever system you got, we can, outsmart you and all that, right? And then she goes, and hold on, this is a long story, so I'm going to kind of chop this down to the context. But essentially what she did, she goes like, listen, every week there's a quiz. Every week. On Friday, there's a quiz. On Wednesday, I'm going to give you questions to that quiz. You're literally going to know what is on that quiz. Mm-hmm. On Thursday, I'm going to give you answers to those questions. So really, all you have to do is memorize, come on Friday, take a quiz, and you're good. And everybody's like, well, that's stupid. But maximum you can get is D. Now listen, hear me out. If you answer the questions that I gave you with the answer I gave you, the max is you're going to get a D. If you want C, there will be one more question, same one, but the variables will be different. So now you have to think on your own. Okay. If you want B, now it's going to be a different question with different variables. Now you really have to understand what's happening. Okay. If you want A, now it's not going to be, I never taught this in a class. It's in a book, but I never taught it in a class. I never mentioned that. So you really now have to self-study. If you want A+, it's not in a book, and I never studied it, and I never taught it. You got to go above and beyond. So here's the interesting thing, that after, first of all, first quiz, guys are cheating, boom. So here's a caveat to all of this. It's going to wrapping this up. If she caught you cheating, you got an F for the test plus F for every question that was on the quiz. So you end up with like 5 Fs, Mm-hmm. In order for you to make up...
Crush your average.
Listen, in order for you to make up the Fs, you had to come in individually. So you couldn't make up multiple Fs at the same class. So you had to come in 5 times after class and make it up. Okay? So, for like first quiz or first week or whatever, she could catch a bunch of guys, boom, boom, there are all these Fs and everything, blah, blah, blah. And then you see them like coming after class with their, frown face and their feet are dragging behind them, trying to make it up, blah, 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 blah. But here's what happened after several months or, whatever, semester into this, is that 1, nobody cheated. 2, everybody wanted to read books with physics. So an average in that class by end of the year, and I don't remember specifics, but it was somewhere B level. Mm-hmm. Like everybody wanted to do it. And she didn't do anything besides put these ridiculous rules in place. Yeah. And I remember this, there was not 1 D in that class, nice. Which is the minimum required that she gave you. Everyone went above and beyond. And it was mind blowing. And honestly, I didn't see the result of it, or the impact that she's made, until years later. Yeah. That is, and I don't know, that's probably, I don't know how ridiculous this all sound to all of you guys, but it was mind blowing when I think about it, in a retrospect. Mm-hmm. But anyway, putting my story aside, is I think we have tremendous impact on our students. And I think Liam said something that I made a point to write down, is not what you teach, but what they learn. Mm-hmm. That was a huge pivot point in my mind.
Yeah, I think what I love about that too is I think it makes the teacher realize that it's not about them.
Not about them.
It's about your students. So here's something interesting. He talked about if he walked into work tomorrow and they said there's no more math courses for you to teach, he would say, okay, give me something else.
Mm-hmm.
I can be an English teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I can be, I can teach anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not because he's full of himself and he thinks he's so smart. It's because he can structure something to present it to this class,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether that's his specific field or not. And I think that that's really important, is that you realize that what they walk away from is more important than you and what you do. It sounds a little contradictory there, but I think
I think this is more visible in the jiu-jitsu scenario, right? Because we find ourselves going into academies where the instructors, this is the move, this is blah blah blah, you got to do it this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. But with that mental state, it really hyper focuses all the attention on the instructor. This is the guy. This is the thing that he does. Versus really looking at it from the other perspective is like, how much are your students benefiting from what you do? And it's not about you. It's about them. It doesn't matter who you are.
Right. It's about them. It's about the subject.
Mm-hmm.
It's about learning that subject. I remember once early on, taking a class from a different instructor, and saying, Thomas taught it this way I think Thomas taught it this way on Tuesday. Am I missing something? And then instructor said, no, that's great if you want to do it that way, but this is just a little different. And this is the way I do it. Neither one is right, or I'm sorry, neither one is wrong. And it kind of opened my eyes to seeing that this is about what we do. What you do here is about it's about jiu-jitsu. It's not about I'm a black belt and you have to learn what I know. It's about jiu-jitsu,
And this is why I think often we underestimated the power of learning from our peers.
Sure.
I think instructors are important and they provide the guidance, but instructor's job is is to show you the way, show you the path, and sometimes, kind of direct you, help you on the path. But it's your job to, dust off the leaves, remove the boulders, go around them and troubleshoot and continue going. It is your journey. It is your journey. And it's your job, I think. Longer you do it, more responsibility you have, which was another mind-blowing point with Liam, talking to him, is where at the beginning is instructor's job to show the way in a way. But at some point, that function of responsibility shifts onto the student, where he has or she or he has the responsibility to take on the knowledge, to seek the knowledge, do the research, self-troubleshoot, and continue be hungry for the knowledge of jiu-jitsu or whichever other topic you explore.
Yep. All right.
That's it?
That's it. 18 minutes. Nice.
Hey, get his book.
Oh, yeah.
Get his book. His book.
What is it? What do great instructors
What
do?
Outstanding instructors do.
Instructors.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. Worth the read.
Yep.
Go get it.
All right.
Later.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.